This podcast was produced using artificial intelligence and refined by human editors.
Hey there, fellow Globetrotters. You're tuned into Travel with Lara and Luca, where every click takes you on a trip.
That's right, Luca. And today we're diving headfirst into the buzzing alleyways and vibrant squares of none other than Marrakech.
Marrakech, a city that wakes up dressed in ochre each morning and parties in a mosaic of stars each night.
Ochre is definitely the new black over there. So folks, strap in and let's find out what makes this city the heartthrob of Morocco.
First off, I have to ask you, Lara, do you remember your very first step into that kaleidoscope they call a city?
Oh, vividly. It was like stepping into a storybook where every page brimmed with snake charmers, lofty minarets, and the heady scent of spices.
Talk about a sensory overload, right? My first time was a shock to the system, in the best of ways, of course. I think a teeny part of me is still navigating the souks.
And a teeny part of me is still haggling over a pair of slippers there. Speaking of which, haggling in Marrakech could be an Olympic sport.
Today's journey will explore iconic sites, delicious cuisine, and so much more. But nothing captures the essence of the place like
an original limerick by yours truly. Clear the stage, folks. There once was a square called Jama where the drumbeats do far more than play, with snake charmers aplenty and goods numbering 20 times 20.
You could wander for hours and a days through alleys that weave like a maze. Bravo, Lara. Poetry and Marrakech go together like mint and tea.
Which we shall dive into later, but I think our listeners are itching to know about the must-sees and the hidden corners of this fabled city.
They'll have to stick around for that. We've got stories that'll make you wish you had a teleportation device handy.
Oh, to teleport would save me the embarrassment of getting utterly lost on my first visit. I aimed for the palace but ended up in a carpet shop.
Talk about magic carpets taking you places, eh? So listen up, everyone. We're pulling back the curtain on the city's iconic sites in today's first segment.
Where every building has a story and every corner a new adventure, or in my case, a new carpet to accidentally purchase.
Our chatty caravan of tales will take you through the mystical Jama el-Fnaa, climb the minaret of Koutoubia,
wander the opulent chambers of Bahia Palace, and lose ourselves again in those endless souks.
So whether you're a seasoned traveler or just daydreaming at your desk, we've got the inside scoop on what makes Marrakech a world-class wonder.
And don't even get me started on the food. Our taste buds went on their own vacation there. We're talking the perfect blend of Arabian, Berber, and European flavors.
Since we're on the topic of travel, what's one thing you'll never forget to pack for Marrakech?
Easy question, Luca. A sense of adventure, a sturdy pair of sandals, and an extra suitcase for all those market treasures I can't resist.
Ah, yes, the souk shopping sprees. They'll certainly test your bargaining chops. But folks, brace yourselves. In the next segment, we'll delve into Marrakech's iconic sites, from the grandeur of palaces to the hum of the lively bazaars.
We've got anecdotes that'll leave you chuckling and yearning for sights unseen, and I'm just itching to share some of mine.
I can't wait to hear them again, probably for the 100th time.
Oh, you love my stories, Luca. Don't even pretend.
Guilty as charged. So folks, tag along as we whisk you away to the heart of Morocco and unveil the sights that make Marrakech, well, Marrakech.
Like peeling an artichoke, we'll reveal the layers of this city's beauty, charm, and downright quirkiness.
After the break, we'll jump right in, starting with the square that's the pulse of the city, the one and only Jama el-Fnaa.
It's a symphony of chaos that somehow harmonizes by the end of the day, but more on that in a moment.
As your trusty guides, we'll sprinkle a pinch of history, a dash of laughter, and heaps of personal experiences you won't find in any guidebook.
So stay tuned, because right after this, we're shining a spotlight on the iconic sites that make Marrakech a travel treasure trove. Expect to hear plenty of oohs and ahs, and maybe even an uh-oh or two.
So Lara, today's first dive into the heartbeat of Marrakech brings us straight to the iconic sites, doesn't it?
You know it, Luca. And what's more iconic than starting off at the vibrant hub of Jama el-Fnaa? You can practically hear the snake charmers' flutes from here.
Ah, yes, the hypnotic dance of the cobras and the bravado of street performers. Did I ever tell you about that monkey that almost made off with my sunglasses there?
Only about a dozen times, Luca, but it never gets old. I mean, where else in the world can you get your future read, your hands henna tattooed, and dine at a food stall, all under the watchful eyes of an amused macaque?
Speaking of food stalls, Lara, remember that bet we had about who would try the spiciest harira soup?
I'm still feeling the burn, Luca. But let's not forget the sights. Towering over the square is the Koutoubia Mosque, the largest mosque in Marrakech.
Absolutely unmissable. It's like the North Star of Marrakech, guiding lost tourists back from the tangled streets of the Medina.
You weren't calling it the North Star when you mistook another minaret for it and ended up on the opposite side of town, were you?
Moving swiftly on. Lara, you adore the Saadian Tombs, right? That luscious touch of green and gold.
I do. It's like stepping into a treasure chest of Marrakech royalty. But wait, that's where you had your Indiana Jones moment, isn't it?
Ha! Less Indiana Jones and more lost tourist. I couldn't find the entrance for a solid half hour. But seriously, the artisan tile work there is a silent poem about the grandeur of the past.
And speaking of beautiful places, the Menara Garden. Describe it, Luca, but I challenge you to not use the word blue.
Challenge accepted. So imagine an artist's vivid daydream where exotic plants from 5 continents sway in the breeze, surrounding enchanting little pathways that crisscross a vibrant sanctuary of color.
And you lost the challenge in the first sentence.
Worth it for the Menara Garden. But let's not leave out the palatial splendor of the Bahia Palace. I mean, Bahia means brilliance, and it certainly lives up to its name.
I'll never forget the light shimmering on the floor-to-ceiling zellage, those ornate geometric mosaics, casting a kaleidoscope around its courtyards.
Although I'd argue the meticulous marquetry and painted ceilings give the zellage a run for its money. Which do you think is the most photogenic?
Oh, it's the zellage for me. But I'll let you win this round with the ceilings, because our listeners need to see those masterpieces for themselves.
From one photogenic place to the general chaos of the souks. You've got to have your wits about you in those markets.
Oh, you mean like the time you tried to barter for a lamp and almost walked away with a donkey?
In my defense, that shopkeeper was a bartering maestro. But seriously, the souks are where Marrakech's pulse is strongest, from the vibrant colors of the spices to the mesmerizing textures of the textiles.
It's where all your senses come alive. The scents, sounds, the buzz of life.
And speaking of coming alive, that's what el-Fnaa does as the sun sets. It's like the square puts on its evening gown and gets ready for a night on the town.
With plenty of stories to share. But as marvelous as the evenings are, I am excited for our listeners to hear what comes next after their day is done. The exquisite tastes and colors of Moroccan cuisine. Right, Luca?
Absolutely, Lara. From tagines to pastries, Moroccan cuisine is a feast for the senses, and I can't wait to chat about it. Shall we head to the next segment, where spices rule and flavors burst?
Let's do it, Luca. I can already taste the perfect sip of mint tea. Listeners, you're in for a treat. Next up, we'll be serving you the delicious details of Marrakech's famed dishes and maybe a cooking misadventure or two. And we're back. You're listening to Travel with Lara and Luca, diving headfirst into the scrumptious world of delicious cuisine in Marrakech.
Oh, Lara, my stomach has been growling in anticipation of this segment. Where do we even start with the eclectic flavors Marrakech offers?
Luca, I recall the first time I stepped into a Marrakech food market. It was a carnival for the senses. The sizzle of grilling meat, the sweet aroma of pastries, and of course the vibrant hue of spices stacked like miniature mountains.
Ah, the spices, the lifeblood of Moroccan cuisine. You know, I once tried to outdo a local chef in identifying spices by scent alone.
How did that go?
I correctly identified cumin and saffron, but she stumped me with ras el-Hanout. Such a complex blend.
Speaking of complexity, remember your first tagine experience?
How could I forget? The server brought it out, piping hot and full of mystery, and I fumbled with the lid, causing a mini eruption of flavor. It left everyone laughing, including me.
Classic Luca. It's all about the ceremony of the presentation, followed by the slow reveal of the tender, perfectly spiced meat and vegetables.
Absolutely. And let's not gloss over the divine pastries, like the beloved baklava, crispy, flaky, and rich with honey and nuts. It's like a sweet hug for your taste buds.
Oh, you're spot on. And while we indulge in the sweet, we must share the ritual of Moroccan mint tea pouring. Luca, remember when you tried to mimic the server's technique?
Well, Lara, how could I have known it requires years of practice to achieve the perfect high pour? My attempt was more a mint tea tsunami.
Thankfully, no one was swept away in the minty waves, but those refreshing sips truly tie the whole meal experience together. And let's not overlook the crowning jewel on the savory side, pastilla.
Oh, the pastilla. Chicken, pigeon, or perhaps fish wrapped in layers of crispy phyllo dough, seasoned with, let's see, how many ingredients can we name?
Well, there's cinnamon, turmeric, ginger.
Don't forget the almonds, eggs, and that surprising hint of powdered sugar.
You're doing quite well. But what about the fragrant coriander and the zesty lemon peel?
I bow to your superior pastilla knowledge, Lara.
It's all in good fun. The great thing about Moroccan cuisine is that it's both a feast for the stomach and for the eyes. Every dish is a work of art.
Speaking of works of art, our next segment will delve into the hidden gems of Marrakech, those exquisite places just waiting to be discovered.
That's right, we're going to guide you to spots that even we had to search hard to uncover, trust me. You won't want to miss it.
But for now, let's savor the last moments of our culinary journey. Marrakech's cuisine is truly emblematic of the city's rich cultural tapestry.
From the bustling food stalls of el-Fnaa to the most sophisticated restaurant lounges, there's a dish to satisfy every traveler's palate.
And on that delicious note, we wrap up our culinary tour of Marrakech. Let's give our listeners time to digest all we've shared before we whisk them away to the city's best-kept secrets.
Stay tuned, as next we'll reveal the tucked-away treasures of Marrakech, places that are off the beaten path but so worth the find.
Here's a hint. Think of lush hidden gardens and ancient stories etched in stone.
So grab your mental map, dear listeners. It's about to get even more exciting.
See you in just a bit on Travel with Lara and Luca, where we take you beyond the typical tourist track. All right, adventurers, it's time to delve into the lesser-known treasures of Marrakech. You visited the bustling souks and gazed upon the Koutoubia Mosque, but now we're going to share with you the city's hidden gems.
Oh, there's nothing like stumbling upon a place that feels undiscovered, like it's your little secret. First stop on our Hidden Gems tour is the Dar Si Said Museum.
Yes, once a palace, now a splendid showcase of Moroccan artistry. What's fascinating is
that it's just a stone's throw away from the chaotic Jama el-Fnaa, yet it's this oasis of calm overflowing with traditional Berber artifacts.
remember that time you tried to mimic the designs and ended up with
more paint on me than the canvas? Yes, I do, but let's not give our listeners the wrong impression. My painting abilities are not part of the exhibition.
Moving along our imaginary alleyways, we come to something quite prickly, the cactus teeman. Lara, you're the plant whisperer. Tell us about it.
Ah, this place is Morocco's largest cacti plantation, and not what you'd expect when picturing Marrakech. Imagine rows upon rows of towering, spiky friends.
Not too close, though, or they become unfriendly very quickly.
Right, but it's such a unique environment. You might even forget you're in Marrakech for a moment.
Absolutely. Now everyone needs a break from the Moroccan sun, so why not enjoy it from a hidden rooftop cafe?
The best spots always seem like a local secret, with those panoramic views of the city and Atlas Mountains in the distance.
Picture this, sinking into a cushioned seat, sipping on a freshly brewed mint tea, watching the sunset paint the city in hues of gold and pink.
And don't even get me started on the food they serve. But wait, we're saving that for another segment.
True. Okay. Every traveler visits a hammam, but we've got a hidden one that's covered in the most intricate mosaics.
Oh, Luca, remember our first hammam experience?
How could I forget? You tried to prepare me for the scrubbing of a lifetime, but nothing can actually prepare you for that.
And yet, here we are recommending it because it's just that rejuvenating. Trust us, folks.
We can't give away all the secrets now, can we? But let's just say, these hidden gems offer a tranquility that balances the vibrant city life.
Last on our list, I really want to mention Le Jardin Secret. It's a name that's almost too perfect for a hidden gem.
Nestled within the Medina, It's an oasis filled with exotic plants and mesmerizing Islamic architecture. Remember the trickling fountains?
How could I forget? They completed the serene bubble that garden envelops you in. It's magical.
It feels like we're revealing the city's best-kept secrets. But there's just something about sharing these experiences that makes them even more special.
Agreed. And speaking of special, just wait until we blow your minds with some wonderfully weird facts about Marrakech. That's coming up next.
Welcome back to The Magic, everyone. In this segment of Travel with Lara and Luca, we're uncovering the must-sees of Marrakech. Lara, got your explorer's hat on?
Always, Luca. And ready to dive into the places that everyone traveling to Marrakech has to, absolutely must experience. Let's begin with the Marrakech Museum.
Housed in the old Dar Palace, the museum is like stepping into a time machine, right? That blend of Moroccan and Andalusian architecture.
The intricate zellige tilework. The central courtyard alone is a feast for the eyes, with its stunning chandelier glinting above like a diamond-studded sky.
You have a way with words, Lara. But can we talk about the exhibitions? It's not just about the palace's grandeur. The art on display is a vibrant window into Moroccan culture.
True, you can spend hours there. But let's swing by another picturesque spot, Menara Gardens. Recognize the pavilion on the postcards? That's Menara.
Sunsets there are a tale unto themselves. The way the light plays off the reflecting pool with the Atlas Mountains as a backdrop? Absolutely epic.
I think epic is underselling it, but wait until you see the groves of olive trees, huh?
A green sea in a desert city. And if the Menara wows you, the Bahia Palace will astonish.
You mean the incomparable palace? It's a ruin now, but there's something hauntingly beautiful in its silence. The grand courtyard, the remnants of rich decoration.
King Ahmad al-Mansur sure knew how to throw a party there. Imagine the festivals once celebrated.
Not hard to imagine with the Festival of Popular Arts bringing it back to life annually. Stories etched in every stone, I'd say.
Speaking of stories, let's not forget the Bahia Palace with its 150-odd rooms of splendor, the grand courtyards, the gorgeous gardens.
The name means brilliance, and it lives up to it. The craftsmanship is so precise, you'd need the patience of a saint to create those mosaics.
And the harem quirk? One room for each of the vizier's wives. In that palace, envy had to have a room with a view.
If walls could gossip, huh?
On to a different kind of art at the Marrakech tanneries. The process might be a bit pungent, but seeing those vibrant hues of dyed leather unfold is nothing short of fascinating.
A colorful dance of tradition. Just be prepared for the tannery's olfactory charm and keep that sprig of mint at hand.
That minty savior. Now, to flip the page, we must talk about religious and educational institutions. The madrasas, for instance.
The Ben Youssef Madrasa, a jewel of Marinid architecture. It was once the largest Islamic college in North Africa.
Every inch etched with knowledge and devotion. The detail in the cedar woodwork and the stucco is a silent hymn to skilled hands.
It's sacred and somber, yet vibrant in its testament to learning. How they ever concentrated on their studies with such beauty around them, I'll never know.
Maybe they drew inspiration from it. But speaking of study, how about taking a quick trip to the future in our Medina time machine?
The Musée Yves Saint Laurent Marrakech, dedicated to fashion, art, and the man who fell in love with Marrakech.
It's a fusion of modernism outside and a treasure trove of creativity inside. It houses an impressive collection of couture and Moroccan artifacts.
Plus, it's right next to the Jardin Majorelle, so you get a double dose of inspiration in one go. A colorful feast for the eyes and soul.
Let's not forget the designers themselves. The ateliers of Marrakech are must-sees for fashion adventurers.
Seeing artisans at work, weaving, dyeing, stitching, it's like watching a painting come to life.
And the final brushstroke on our must-see canvas is the Koutoubia Mosque. It stands as Marrakech's landmark. Its minaret towers over the city, a true North Star for those wandering the streets.
A guidepost of spirituality and history. Non-Muslims may not enter, but admiring it from the rose gardens is a serene experience, day or night.
And on that serene note, we're nearing the end of this segment, but stay with us because in the next part, we're diving into something a bit odd, a bit peculiar.
Weird but wonderful facts about Marrakech that you didn't know you needed to know until now. So, Stay tuned, as we're about to get strange and surprising.
Welcome back to Travel with Lara and Luca, where we've been diving deep into the marvels of Marrakech. And now, it's about to get strange. Because we're at my favorite segment, Weird Facts.
Marrakech is the gift that keeps on giving. And when it comes to the bizarre and the curious, this city has some tales. Starting with, did you know Marrakech is sometimes called the Red City? And no, it's not because it's blushing.
Oh, absolutely not. The walls and buildings have this reddish hue because they're made of a specific local clay. But here's the weird fact. These walls need to be frequently maintained. There's an actual job here where people go around touching up the city's color. Imagine that on your CV.
Professional city painter specializing in the shade terracotta. And here's another one, but you've got to guess. Luca, why wouldn't you scream when riding a Marrakech taxi?
Oh, I'm gonna regret this, aren't I? I don't know why.
Because even the taxis here are painted in the calming shade of beige by law. It's actually mandated to keep the aesthetics of the city uniform.
Well, that explains my unusually zen taxi journey to the hotel. Moving on to another weird gem, the Koutoubia Mosque minaret. It's never lit up from the front at night, only from the sides. The lights are intentionally kept dim so that the worshippers are not disturbed.
Yeah, true story. The minaret has its own bedtime routine. And speaking of lights, have you heard about the lamp seller of Jama el-Fnaa who claims his lamps are genie certified?
I have, and the genie's name was probably Bargain. Here's something that tickles my funny bone. Marrakech has an unofficial rule, no building taller than a palm tree, which is why the cityscape is so beautifully spread out and not upward.
Poetic and practical, love it. Did I ever tell you the one about the Jinn Express?
No, you didn't, but it sounds like you're about to.
Supposedly there's this one alley in the Medina where you can hear the whispers of jinns at night. Locals call it the Jinn Express because it's like a supernatural highway.
Yes, I've heard people won't hang around there after dusk, which brings us to another nighttime fact. So legend has it that Marrakech's donkeys turn into spirits at night to protect the city. Have you seen any spectral donkeys on your midnight strolls, Lara?
Luca, I've seen a lot of things on my midnight strolls, but spirit donkeys are not yet included. But speaking of protection, let's talk about the Agafay Gardens. Weird thing is they were built both as an orchard and a training ground for soldiers. Talk about a multifunctional space.
Fruit picking by day and sword wielding by night. Now for something less spooky and more quirky. The Marrakechi are known for their love of pigeon as a sport. They have pigeon races here, and people bet on them like they're racehorses. Fast and the featherous, perhaps?
Very punny, Luca. From birds to bread, another fact, many homes in the old Medina don't have ovens, so people take their dough to local furan, community ovens, to be baked. A daily bread communal experience.
And don't forget, each family's dough has a specific mark, so they know which bread is theirs, like a delicious, fresh bread fingerprint.
Precisely. Now, I'm going to bring out the big guns. Did you know there is a palm tree in Marrakech that is said to have magical powers? Locals say that if you walk around it 7 times, it'll bring good luck.
Do they? I'd be dizzy before I'd be lucky. Imagine all those dizzy people. And you know what's dizzying? The number of olives consumed here. Apparently, the average Marrakechi eats more olives than anywhere else in the world.
Looks like it's a city after my own heart, or rather, palate. But we're not done yet. Once upon a time, it was illegal to bring the famous Moroccan oranges into the city after dark. It was believed they would turn to gold, and imagine the chaos that would cause.
Golden opportunity for some, I suppose. As for today's final weird fact, legend has it that the palm groves surrounding Marrakech were planted with dates spat out by the Arabian armies. So in a way, they're a living war memorial.
Such a fruitful anecdote, Luca. And I suppose that brings us to the end of the tales from Marrakech's weirder side, though I doubt we've even scratched the surface.
Indeed, Lara. Now, after all these odd stories, our listeners might want something a bit more grounded. Stick around, because next, we're getting serious.
Yes, we're following the timeline into the rich past, delving into the history of Marrakech, the rise and fall of dynasties, the ancient lore. It's all coming up.
You won't want to miss it. Trust us. So stay tuned for a trip down the labyrinthine lanes of history. Ah, deep breaths, Lara, because it's time to dust off the history books for our listeners as we delve into Marrakech's past in this segment.
Yes, Luca. If Marrakech's alleys could talk, they'd surely tell tales from over 1,000 years ago, starting with the city's founding by the Almoravids in 1062.
A magnificent year. These were the days when Marrakech bloomed in the desert like a rose, which, funnily enough, is a lot harder to do than founding a city, if you ask me.
Oh, absolutely, Luca. In fact, did you know that the Almoravids created an extensive network of underground irrigation channels to support their gardens outside the city? A lush life indeed.
Ingenious, and those same channels, or ketar as they're called, are a part of why the Palmeraie is such an oasis now. All right, I'll start with their monumental contribution, the Koutoubia Mosque. It wasn't just a spiritual hub, but an architectural marvel that set the tone for the city's skyline.
And speaking of spiritual hubs, we can't forget about the infamous tussle for Marrakech between the Almoravids and the Almohads. In 1147, the Almohads took over and gave the city a makeover. Ever the fans of one-upmanship, aren't they?
Oh, they loved a good dramatic entrance. They reconstructed and expanded the Koutoubia Mosque, which, by the way, later inspired the Giralda of Seville and the Hassan Tower of Rabat.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I guess. The Almohads also played a key role in shaping Marrakech into a cultural hub, attracting scholars, poets, and theologians.
But no city's history is quite complete without a bit of family drama. After the Almohads came the Marinids, though they viewed Fez with more favor than our Red City. Marrakech was treated a bit like the forgotten middle child for a while.
Yes, until the Saadian dynasty decided to switch things up. Marrakech was back, baby, and bolder than ever. Mansions, madrasas, tombs, the Saadians decked the halls.
And I bet they threw incredible house parties. Fast forward to the 17th century, when the Alawites came to power. They preferred Meknes, but didn't neglect Marrakech entirely. European diplomacy started to take shape as well during this period.
Oh, and speaking of European influence, let's chat about Joseph Thomson, a Scottish explorer who entered Marrakech disguised as a Syrian doctor. It sounds like a story we'd make up, doesn't it?
It sounds exactly like something you would do, Lara. But Marrakech has always been a bit of a stage for the dramatic. Now, here's where it gets geopolitical. The 20th century rolled in with all the subtlety of a sandstorm, bringing colonial forces to the fore.
Not our finest hour in history. In 1912, Morocco became a French protectorate with Marrakech as part of it. The Red City then saw major development, especially under the French resident general, Marshal Lyautey.
You weren't kidding about geopolitics, Lara. Although the French brought in a wave of modernization, it's essential to remember that the heart and soul of Marrakech never waned. The city's indomitable spirit led to it becoming a center of political activism for Moroccan independence,
which they won in 1956, a cause for eternal celebration. Marrakech, from then on, has been a symbol of the country's resilience and cultural identity. Now it's a city cherishing its past while winking at the future.
What a journey through time, Lara. Marrakech truly has embraced its history, from the rich lore of its founders to the dynamic thrust of modern-day vigor.
Oh, and speaking of embracing, make sure you're ready for some serious travel wisdom in our next segment, because we'll be dishing out expert travel tips that could make or break your Marrakech adventure.
That's right. Whether it's magical hacks to navigate the souks or finding the best spots for a sunset sip of mint tea, we've got you covered. All right, wanderers, you've been steeped in the rich flavors of Marrakech thus far, but now it's time to distill some non-alcoholic but absolutely intoxicating expert travel tips.
That's right. Whether you're lost in the Medina or simply trying to score that perfect lantern without causing a diplomatic incident, we've got your back.
First up, navigating. It's an art and a science in the winding streets of the Marrakech Medina. My top tip, lose the map for a bit. Trust me, the best discoveries happen when you're not following a blue dot on your screen.
True, but keep a compass app handy. When you're ready to head back, knowing which way is north can save you from walking deeper into a labyrinth of leather goods.
Speaking of goods, let's talk bartering. The opening price, that's just a warm-up, a prelude to the dance of dirhams.
Absolutely. Always approach it with a smile. A little humor can go a long way, and often the shopkeepers enjoy the banter as much as the business.
Couldn't agree more. I've found that offering about a third of the asking price is a good place to start. It signals you're serious, but still leaves room for the drama of negotiation.
There's a finesse to it. Remember, though, that these are their livelihoods. It's a fine balance between getting a deal and showing respect.
Oh, yes, respect. Well, on that note, the call to prayer is a beautiful part of the local culture. But remember, it's not a tourist attraction. No selfies with the Muezzin folks.
It's about blending in, which leads us to attire. Respectful dress doesn't only apply to religious sites. Walking around the city, too. Loose, lightweight clothing that covers shoulders and knees, right, Luca?
Exactly, and a good pair of walking shoes. Those cobblestones look charming, but show no mercy to stilettos or flimsy flip-flops.
And while we're on the subject of what to wear, hats or scarves, shade from the Moroccan sun is your best friend next to SPF 50, of course.
You know what's not my best friend, though? Those little scooters zipping by. Stay alert, my friends. Treat every alley like there's a silent scooter just waiting to test your reflexes.
Now, if you do find yourself astray in the Medina with a squadron of scooters coming at you, friendly local guides may offer to direct you, often leading to their friends' shops.
Ah, the guided detour. If you wish to avoid the circuitous route, a polite no thank you or la shukran is your shield.
And in this digital age, having enough battery power is crucial. Keep a portable charger on you. A dead phone is a modern-day traveler's horror story.
Nightmare material, right there. Speaking of a charge, let's talk about money. There are ATMs, but some establishments are cash only. Keep a stash of small bills on hand for tips and taxis.
Speaking of taxis, agree on the fare before you get in. And if they say the meter's broken, well, that's as likely as me giving up coffee, which is to say not very.
Ha! Now, for a bit of immersion, the local hammams, public bathhouses where you can scrub off the travel grime and soak up some authentic Moroccan life.
Do as the Romans, or in this case the Moroccans do. Engage in the ritual. It's rejuvenating. Just maybe search for the ones frequented more by locals than tourists.
That's half the adventure. And hey, if you're considering taking a piece of Morocco home, and by piece, I mean a glorious Moroccan rug, pack light going out.
Because you'll want to pack that rug into your luggage coming back. Those vibrant patterns are irresistible, just like a second helping of couscous.
Let's not forget to mention timing. The souks can be intense midday. Beat the crowd and the heat by heading out early or exploring at dusk.
That golden light for photos, not to mention cooler temps, is a photographer's dream. And if you happen to stay late, you might just catch an impromptu music performance.
Treasure these moments, but don't forget to treasure your belongings too. A small, secure crossbody bag does wonders against the sticky fingers in any crowd.
Sticky fingers, but hearts of gold. Most Marrakech locals are incredibly warm and genuine. Just use common sense as you would when traveling anywhere.
That's a solid suitcase of tips, Lara, but I think we've got to shut it before the zipper breaks. Next up, we're going to stretch our legs outside the city walls. Are you ready to find out where the real wild things are?
I'm born ready. Let's talk side excursions, where the big city buzz meets serene landscapes, and we discover just how diverse the areas around Marrakech can be.
So the moment has come to step outside the red walls of Marrakech and explore what lies beyond. Welcome back to Travel with Lara and Luca, and this, my wanderlust-filled friends, is all about side excursions.
Oh, excursions, a traveler's chance to say, I love you, but I need some space, to a city. Now, what's on our jaunty jaunt schedule, Luca?
First up, we scale the heights to the magnificent Atlas Mountains. Lara, wasn't there a rather unexpected twist in your last trip there?
You mean my unexpected llama drama? Indeed, there was. I ventured out to explore the Berber villages and suddenly found myself in the middle of a spirited llama escape act.
Wait, llamas in Morocco?
I know, right? They were imported. Just picture me unwittingly becoming a llama wrangler. It was the epitome of travel unpredictability.
And quite the testament to your herding skills as well. Folks, the Atlas Mountains are just sublime. You get these broad, peaceful valleys and these rugged peaks that seem to challenge the sky.
Speaking of challenging, your desert experience at Agafay was no less epic, was it? Tell our listeners about your night under the stars.
Gladly. Imagine a moonscape, barely an hour's drive from Marrakech, a rocky desert that serves solitude and serenity on a silver platter.
With a side of stargazing, I bet. Did you make any cosmic connections?
Beyond the shooting stars and my failed attempts at constellations, there's something magical about the silence out there. It makes you believe in more than what you see.
From silence to the symphony of cascading waters at Ouzud waterfalls. Luca, you've been raving about this oasis ever since we planned this episode.
Raving, and rightfully so. Imagine walking through this lush path, a complete contrast to Marrakech's arid ambience, and then hearing the roar of these falls.
It's like nature's own stress relief track. A splash here, a rainbow there, and the gentle mist that clings to your skin like a whisper.
And while you're whispering sweet nothings with nature's marvel, I'm taking our friends to Essaouira, the windy city of Africa.
Windsurfing may not be my forte, but the souks, the sea air, and seeing the musicians straddle the line between the traditional and the eclectic, that's my jam.
I'll give the surfing another try, but it's the vibe, the history marinated with pirate lore, that'll keep bringing me back.
And you can't talk excursions without a camel trek through the Palmeraie, an entire different kind of horsepower, eh?
Oh, I'm convinced my camel had a mind of its own, or maybe it was the other way around.
Either way, the Palmeraie is an exotic break from the non-stop sensory buzz of the city.
True, it's a green pocket of peace and date palms, an ideal pause for thought or for plotting your next adventure.
Speaking of plots, what's the story for our next segment, Luca?
In our final thoughts, we'll look back at the city, our escapades, and we might just drop a clue or two about where travel with Lara and Luca is headed next.
So, pack your memories and hold tight to your tagines. We're wrapping up with a flourish after this adventurous detour. Stay tuned. And just like the sun dips behind the Koutoubia minaret, we too are reaching the end of today's journey through the wondrous maze of Marrakech.
It has been a day rich with tales more colorful than the tiles of the Bahia Palace, hasn't it, Lara?
Absolutely. From the sonic tapestry woven by the snake charmers of el-Fnaa to the flavorful stews that have delighted our taste buds, we've relived it all for our wonderful listeners.
We laughed at my misadventures in the souks, marveled again at the beauty of the Marrakech Garden, and I still insist it's the blue we should call Marrakech Luca.
In your dreams, Luca. But yes, we've shared tales of our favorite hidden gems, like sunsets watched from secret rooftops unknown to the guidebooks.
And let's not forget the weird facts, such as the legend of the Marrakech name, although I'm still unsure if those fiery spirits could really be responsible for it all.
History seeped into our conversation as generously as mint tea pours into a glass, with stories of rulers and relics that have shaped this city.
I think our listeners might even remember my dynamic portrayal of the spice trade. I'm sure my kitchen will never be the same again.
I'm sure it won't, Luca. And we gave our fellow travelers some golden nuggets of advice, like never accepting final price as final in the bazaars.
To travel is to learn, and learn we did, especially when it comes to bartering. Remember that one carpenter who was no match for your haggling skills, Lara?
I'll take that as a compliment. Yet we weren't just city-bound, we spread our wings to the heights of the Atlas and the quiet greenery around the Ouzud waterfalls.
I still have grains of the Agafay Desert in my shoes, a gritty reminder of the vastness just outside Marrakech's heartbeat.
Gritty indeed. I believe we've walked our listeners through a labyrinth of tales and tips today. Luca, what was your most unforgettable moment in Marrakech?
It's tricky to pick just one, but if I must, it's the echoing call to prayer at dawn, cutting through the morning air, a reminder of the spiritual melody that plays at the heart of this city. And yours?
For me, it's that spontaneous first bite of a pastilla, as surprising and complex as Marrakech itself, where sweetness and savory dance together in an unforgettable flaky embrace.
Well, I have to agree. That's a moment worth cherishing. We hope our listeners have enjoyed traversing Marrakech with us today as much as we've enjoyed sharing it.
Yes, let this episode be a mosaic of memories and inspiration for all who yearn to explore.
And as we sign off, let me offer this Moroccan proverb: the best figs may be at the top of the tree, but they are worth the climb.
Beautifully put, Luca. Together, we invite you to imagine your own adventure through the vibrant streets of Marrakech, where every corner promises a new story.
Join us next time when we'll unpack the mysteries of another enchanting destination, bringing its hidden corners and echoing laughter straight to your ears.
So until then, keep wandering, and always carry an extra piece of mint for that surprise tea invitation.
Goodbye, everyone. Stay adventurous.
Farewell, dear travelers, until the next tale unfolds on Travel with Lara and Luca.